There's this thing that happened in November 2025 that almost nobody talked about, and it involves half the world's population trying to create a new kind of money. Five countries Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa just launched their own currency system. It's backed by gold, it runs on blockchain, and it's designed to compete with the US dollar. This could either completely change how global trade works or it could fall apart spectacularly. Alright, to understand why this is happening, we need to talk about something really weird about how international money works. Let's say Brazil is selling coffee to India. You'd think the transaction would be pretty straightforward, right? But that's not what happens. Instead, the money goes Brazilian reals to US dollars, then to Indian rupees. The US dollar is in the middle of almost every international transaction on earth, about 88% of them. This all goes back to 1944. World War II had just ended, and the world's leaders met in this small town in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods. They basically decided, you know what, let's just use the US dollar for everything. At the time, it made sense. America had the biggest economy, the most gold reserves, the most stable government. But that was 80 years ago. Today, it creates this situation where every country on earth is dependent on American financial infrastructure. And some countries are starting to really not like that. Enter the BRICS Unit. It's 40% backed by actual physical gold. The remaining 60% is backed by a basket of BRICS currencies. This ratio adjusts every day based on market conditions. They're running the whole thing on blockchain technology. Same basic tech as Bitcoin, which means everything's transparent and no single country can manipulate it. Now, you're not going to use this to buy groceries. This is for governments and big corporations settling huge international trades. But that's kind of the point. It's designed to replace the dollar at that level. On paper, it's actually pretty clever, but the motivation behind it gets interesting. In 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. The US and Europe responded by cutting Russia off from SWIFT. That's the messaging system that basically all international bank transfers use. Almost overnight, Russia couldn't do basic international business. Every other country in the BRICS bloc watched that happen. This isn't really about saving money on transaction fees. This is about not wanting to be vulnerable to American financial power. China holds over $1 trillion in US government bonds. That's a lot of eggs in someone else's basket. India imports American tech but has zero say in US monetary policy. Brazil's economy can be affected by decisions made in Washington that have nothing to do with Brazil. Okay, but, and this is a big but, this might not work. And here's why. Problem number one, these countries don't actually get along that well. India and China have literal military standoffs at their border. Russia and China compete for influence across Asia. Brazil is a democracy. China very much is not. And in March 2025, India's foreign minister basically said in public, yeah, we're not all on the same page about this whole replacing the dollar thing. Problem number three, and this is the big one, they still need dollars. Despite everything, China and the US are each other's biggest trading partners. India imports tons of American technology. You can't escape the dollar system while you're still actively using it. And then there's trust. The dollar system has been refined over 80 years. There are laws, insurance systems, dispute resolution processes, an entire infrastructure that everyone understands. The BRICS unit is brand new, untested. Alright, where does this actually stand right now? The pilot program launched in November 2025, but the consumer version, BRICS Pay, got pushed to 2030. Most experts think if this works at all, we're looking at 10 to 15 years before it's a major player. But the momentum is undeniable. In 2024, 90% of Russia's trade within BRICS happened in local currencies, not dollars. Central banks, especially China, Russia, and Turkey, are stockpiling gold at record levels. The BRICS unit doesn't have to replace the dollar to matter. If it captures even 10% of trade between member countries, that's trillions of dollars moving outside the dollar system. The bloc keeps growing. The more countries that join, the more useful this currency becomes. President Trump even threatened a 150% tariff on any BRICS nation that pursues a common currency. When you're threatening tariffs over something, you're worried about it. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it and subscribing to the channel. Click the bell icon to be notified when the next story drops. Until next time.